review Sith versus Jedi. I thought it'd be kind of fun and wacky. So we'll see what his argument is. I'm gonna be pretty sure. I think I watched the beginning part of this before. I think he goes with the Sith, maybe. He argues that they're the better guys.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I heard you talking to the other guy about a bunch of the different topics. I just had a bunch to say about all of them.
For the record, I think what he does here is he goes on to TikTok or something where he TikTok invasion or something where he I don't know if he goes on Discord or whatever, but he goes on to blank space and debates people. So I think that's what this is.
I mean, I messaged you and I said debating if Palpatine or the Empire, Sith were the good guys or not.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy to go off of whatever you wanted to talk about.
Well, I want to see if you got an argument against this.
Hmm.
Well, I think it's pretty easy to say that the Sith aren't the good guys. The Empire would be harder for me to argue against, but I think that you could argue pretty firmly that the Sith weren't the good guys.
That's true. Like I'm just saying, like they felt like maybe like in an ends justifies the means sort of way they would have been good, but like they did a lot of bad stuff. I mean, it wasn't Anakin who slaughtered a whole bunch of kids to get his stuff. They were certainly willing to burn planets to the ground to accomplish the good ends. So, good intentions, road to hell type of people, maybe.
Okay, what's the case for well, when I say the Sith, I'm talking specifically about Vader
Really?
and Palpatine.
Again,
Okay, so you're not
Vader slaughtered a whole bunch of kids, and I think Palpatine kind of egged him on. So just saying, not great people. Not to mention, I think Palpatine. Well, the whole idea, I think, of the Sith, this might have been like a retro active thing where like it might have existed originally, but there was a rule of two basically that every Sith master would get a Sith protege, which would eventually kill him. Palpatine killed his master at some point. I assume Vader at some point would have killed Palpatine, but you can look that up if you like.
talking about the Sith as a whole. You're talking about two Sith in particular.
Yeah, well, and the Sith pre-Rule of Two,
Okay.
I would say also weren't bad guys. And I'm not even sure that post-Rule of Two. In fact, now that I think about it, no, I can make the case that the Jedi were worse than the Sith. That the Jedi weren't the good guys.
Okay, well, are we gonna argue that which one was worse or which one was?
Yeah, that's maybe a little bit different. Arguing which one was good versus which one was just less bad. I'm trying to think what the. Just generally speaking, we like the idea, like as Americans, I think we'd like the idea of a republic better than an empire. Right after all, he is Big Daddy Fascist or something. I think that was his handle on Twitter for a while.
Good or bad?
Well, who were the good guys in that scenario? You can say they're both bad, but one's taking the side of the good guy, one's taking the side of the bad guy, right?
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, so I only pay for what I need. What a great day.
I see. Yeah. I mean, I would still make the case that the Jedi are always going to be the good guys.
Why?
Just based off of the core belief.
Freedom. I don't know what their core beliefs were, but that would be like the general idea. The Empire is portrayed as kind of a controlling force. So just generally speaking, like there's this element that you see the Jedi as like a beacon of hope and freedom for the galaxy. So we would naturally see the opposition as bad guys.
Beliefs of the Jedi. I mean, they can be corrupted. Like a Jedi can be corrupted.
Their core beliefs are worse.
What are the core? Okay, I guess.
Stick with me for a second.
I was committing too early to that because I don't actually know what the core beliefs of the Jedi were.
I think that if you look at the Jedi's beliefs, they're almost purely good. unless they're corrupted by the person wielding them.
What's wrong with the
Whereas
Sith beliefs? They're not purely, or there's nothing wrong with their
That again, I don't know what the core Sith beliefs are. Maybe he'll go into that.
beliefs. What's wrong with them?
most of the Sith's beliefs are totally reliant on like the power drain of the individual, like the host. So the person becomes uglier. They become more cynical.
No, they don't. That is not true.
What would you say? What makes you say that that's not true?
They don't become uglier because they're Sith. Did Palpatine become uglier because he was Sith? He was.
Wasn't he attacked or something? Like that's what went down, or like whatever. He got attacked and then got scarred and whatnot, and then he went all kind of nutso. Order 66 stuff. Getting Order 66. A whole bunch of people died in that. Okay. Technically, I think it was mostly Jedi though, so you could argue the point that it was a kind of clinical thing. It wasn't just willy-nilly firing and stuff. Okay, so Death Star, did it? That was meant to destroy planets, right? Did he ever actually destroy a planet? Because if we're decanonizing like the new stuff, technically those guys who were the at least spiritual successors of the Sith, no, technically they were ran by Sith. They literally blew up planets, so that not great, right? Not a great thing. Not very clinical. Very very over the top methodology to get their goals accomplished.
Marred by Force lightning. No, he was marred by Force lightning.
No, so I mean, I have heard people say that, and I think that is what Palpatine wants you to think in the Star Wars canon. But I think the actual like in-universe explanation is that that's his true form, and that he kind of like loses that in the moment, and then it's just revealed.
I don't know. If you're assuming like unreliable narrator, I don't know if that's. Although I guess I haven't seen a whole lot of.
So he just keeps it. I mean,
there were really good-looking Sith, dude.
Sure.
Like the dark side itself does not make you ugly. But even if it did, let's just grant for a second that it does. That you, by being a dark side Force user, get uglier. That doesn't mean it's evil even then. Just because it makes you ugly.
It's draining you of your own, like your youth, your purity, your power. You wouldn't.
They live longer. They don't live shorter lives. They live longer lives.
I'm pretty sure that they only live
like
based.
Technically, so did the ring rays in Lord of the Rings. That doesn't work. Again, if it's leeching you and it's making you evil, etc., still not good. Even if you live longer, this guy would have used the ring. Don't tell me he wouldn't. Andrew Wilson would have totally used the ring.
Off of like the ritual of taking from others, like Darth Nihilus, where he had to like consume planets.
No, that way, no. Nihilus,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Nihilus did that, but the other Sith Lord did not do that.
Huh.
And Revan, who was a Sith Lord, did not do that. And Malak, who was a Sith Lord, did not do that.
Revan is only Malak as well. They were only Sith through mind control. They weren't Sith because they turned.
Yeah,
they got into a scuffle with Vitiate.
Whose life force was Kreia draining?
Say that again.
Whose life force was Kreia draining? She was definitely a Sith Lord.
Your $200 puffer keeps you warm at the coffee shop, but as soon as you step outside,
you make weird sounds when you eat it.
I mean, well, so it's not that her own life force is being drained. Do you know what I mean? Like she
lived forever, dude. She was.
I was thinking for this thumbnail, I got to do some sort of Darth thing with this guy.
He was ancient. Palpatine was ancient. They weren't. The dark side wasn't making them, taking their vitality away from them. They were getting unnaturally long lives.
I think using the argument that they live a long time isn't necessarily like I don't think that's a good argument, because all Force users will live way past their normal life expectancy.
Yeah, so then why would you use that as an argument that they were evil then?
Well, I said that it distorted their physical look. I didn't say they died earlier.
Okay, but isn't it the case that even if it was the case that they got uglier because they used the dark side, how would that entail evil? because they get uglier.
Corruption of the host.
That's not proof of corruption. That's not proof of corruption.
Well, sure it is, because sorry, because like prior to them adopting,
there might be an element to the idea that they just kind of said that they were the bad guys too, and then they're supposed to be the bad guys. But I do think there was a lot of playing fast and loose with the idea of morality on the Sith side, and fast and loose with the idea of like what you should be capable of sacrificing to your ultimate goals. So that's why I would say the Sith are actually the bad guys.
The way of the Sith, they looked completely different. They acted completely different.
Yeah, so,
I mean, that's only
what?
one of my reasons why I think.
So yeah, but so what?
Back to the point. Anakin slaughtered a whole bunch of kids to get more power, right? Palpatine killed his master to get more power. It does feel like they're kind of in the realm of like power hungry, overly ambitious sorts. I wonder if he's going to address that.
Yeah, like because they act differently and they're from your perspective ugly. That means evil.
I mean,
that doesn't.
Andrew Wilson is like the ultimate justice warrior. You're just judging. This thing is. And we're just wondering. I hope you guys can see the actual screen here. Check. He's like the OG justice warrior, defending the Sith against the prejudicial. Yeah, we're good. All right. Just the prejudice of small, bigoted minds.
Follow, bro.
Well, I mean, no. So
like if I get acid thrown on my face, am I now eviler?
Yes.
No, it's not my own perception of evil. It's the universe is repulsed by them. They would even categorize them as evil in the Star Wars universe, which is why they're constantly in hiding.
Yeah, I get that they're categorized.
There's another element to this too, which is generally, I guess it feels like it's generally an element of like dictatorships or kind of Nazi-esque societies where there's kind of a lot of taking people out back type of stuff that went on. It seems like a lot of I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm not up enough on my lore, but I feel like that would have been the idea of the Empire, that people could be taken at the behest of the state anytime, anywhere, any place, and just killed, which is not the greatest thing.
That way, as being evil, but that's narrative building. They just claim that they're evil. They don't demonstrate that they're evil. And remember, Anakin Skywalker.
Look, what was the purpose of the Death Star? Was it like purely a military mechanism? I don't remember exactly.
Says to Obi-Wan Kenobi in the 3rd episode, from my perspective, the Jedi are evil.
Yeah, but we know Anakin to be completely...
This isn't just a wallet, it's a rare find. There's something different about owning something almost nobody else has. That's why when Ridge...
So you lost at that point.
How was he?
He's crying in the scene before that. Like, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, he was.
He wants R2 to stay with the ship, so R2 doesn't see what he's going to do.
Yeah, of course, because he had seen the Jedi try to assassinate the duly elected Chancellor of the Republic, and he felt betrayed by them. So yeah, he was a little confused. That would be very confusing if you saw everybody that you love try to assassinate your mentor. You probably wouldn't like that very much.
Might be an understatement.
Well, was it that, or do you think it was the fact that he was holding on to his mom dying? I mean, he blames the Jedi.
And whose fault was that? The Jedi who refused? They absolutely refused. They took this slave kid away from mom, and then none of them bothered to go.
There's a point against the Jedi. They do tend to recruit basically child soldiers or whatever, like take people away from their parents at a very young age, which is kind of a little bit twisted. I would say so. Point Andrew.
Go back and get her out of slavery. This is the benevolent order of the Jedi. They take the slave kid, and then what? They had how many? 16 years, and they just never bothered to go back and get Mama. That sounds like a really bad idea, bro.
You don't think that any of these other kids that they take in to be Jedi have parents that are like living horrible lives that they would need to be saved from?
Well, if the whole point is to distance yourself from emotional entanglements, then wouldn't the Jedi go out of their way in order to put the kid's mind at ease by at least rescuing the slave mom?
No, because then that would be reinforcing the thought that you need to give in to these emotions. Only then you can only.
That is a little bit twisted, honestly. Kill them both. Destroy them both, man. Both the Sith and the Jedi. They're both evil. Hey.
You have peace once you've given into the emotion that you know everything's totally okay.
Well, that's stupid.
No.
That's like leaving meth in the room of a meth addict and then going, "Why did you smoke that?"
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
yeah,
no, I don't think that's a good argument. I don't think they match up.
Yeah, they match up. All Anakin Skywalker was thinking about was that his mom was a slave somewhere else. How was that helpful to him?
Okay. You're right with that, but this is also the argument that Yoda makes. And so I don't think that they're evil by taking him. I think that it was just the circumstances. But that doesn't mean that they now need to right all the wrongs of Anakin's life to like make him into this perfect person. Obi-Wan has has very similar problems, which is why Obi-Wan feels so compelled to be like his brother to him.
What problems did Obi-Wan have? His family wasn't a bunch of slaves on a desert planet.
No, his family wasn't slaves, but he had his brother was. I mean, like he has like that love entanglement that they write into the story later. George Lucas does. So I mean, and that's also why I don't think that Anakin needs.
And by the way, the Jedi not allowing marriage was a prime problem when it came.
I'm just saying, like it does feel like kind of an issue. Like, you might see a lot of sexual dysfunction in monk things or nunneries because of that. So I think generally speaking, a refusal to allow people to get married and to exercise a very normal instinct of theirs, or something to suppress that very important part of who they are, is not, generally speaking, maybe the best route to take. So that was maybe a little bit weird. Again, point Andrew Wilson.
Aim to these, and by the way, telling people not to have relationships and to not have any sort of emotional entanglements was one of the biggest weaknesses.
Again, maybe point Wilson. Point against the Jedi.
There was no goodness there.
It was one of their weaknesses, but if you look at what they're trying to do, it almost kind of makes sense.
How does it make sense?
Because so I don't have any concrete evidence to support what I'm about to say, but it seems as if they were trying to learn from the Old Republic, because the Old Republic was a lot more chaotic. Like people could get married. They had dudes had harems of Jedi chicks that they would walk around with. I think even in the Republic Commando books, there's still, at the time of the
Republic. So, I didn't actually know that there would have been a point where the Jedi were actually able to do stuff. Anyways, all right, we'll be done with that there. Moral of the story, it does seem like there are points against both of them, and perhaps a lot of water or a lot of weight is carried by the fact that they say dark side of the Force, light side of the Force. But I do think that the Sith did a lot of stuff that would be characteristic of Hitlerian tactics and final solutions and whatnot. It feels like that was more their methodology, and ostensibly, at least the Jedi were trying to work for a better world. So I think I kind of see where Andrew's coming from, but I also think that he's maybe somewhat wrong-ish. I remain unchanged. All right, afterthoughts, and perhaps a point or two in Mr. Wilson's favor. It seems like the point could be argued that the Jedi wanted to exert the same level of control over the Force and Force-sensitive children, which was ostensibly which was in theory the greatest military accoutrement in the galaxy, as the Empire wanted to exert over the galaxy itself. You could argue that ostensibly their motives were better, but it's kind of a little bit of a dubious proposition. I had to look this up. The Jedi Council weren't democratically elected. They were elected by Jedi from the ranks of the Jedi. So it becomes kind of a dubious proposition if kind of a religiously fanatical group want to control what might be considered to like the nuclear deterrence in the galaxy, and they aren't democratically elected. And they basically take child soldiers and they force celibacy from their adherents, and like I'm kind of more up in the air than I was before as to who is the good guy. Now, I think that there is a point that could be made where you could delineate the original trilogy and say, just as itself, like as a self-contained thing, yes, in the original trilogy, Empire is basically space Nazis with an autocracy. The New Republic is trying to bring back free and democratic elections and stuff like that. The Sith are the ones in control of the Empire, so, bad guys, autocracy, etc. Jedi are trying to help democracy, elections, etc. So, in that scenario, yes, Empire bad, New Republic good, Sith bad, Jedi good. But with like the prequels and with the extended universe, it feels like that becomes a much more dubious proposition. And as Andrew argues, perhaps you could argue that the Empire was in fact the good guys, or perhaps maybe at least there were no clear-cut good guys. It feels like on the face of it, both of them were pretty nefarious coded, if that makes sense. Anyways,